Select Committee. 9 members, 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats worked over the last 6 months very, very cooperatively and closely together. And I should add very diligently through periods of time when the rest of Congress, for the most part, were engaged in other things. During the election, during the period running up to the election and immediately afterward, through Thanksgiving, through Hanukkah, through Christmas, and now into New Year's, we have been working very, very long hours, and I have never seen more member involvement on a committee than I have seen on this Select Committee. Our report is 5 volumes, 700 pages. The unanimous approval for this report encompasses all 5 volumes, all 700 pages, and all of the findings. In addition to our findings, we have reached 38 recommendations for the executive branch and for legislation that we expect will move through the House and the Senate. We are submitting our report for declassification review immediately. That will require a period of days or weeks, we hope not much longer, and it is our object not only to send the classified version of this report forthwith on the 2nd of January to those who can read the classified version, but also to send to the public the unclassified version forthwith after that declassification review is over. The declassification review will be conducted both by the Clinton administration and by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Today, we cannot answer most of your questions relating to unclassified information because the staff work of uncoupling it from the classified information has not yet commenced. We have literally just now voted this report, but that work will commence immediately, and we hope to be able to answer your questions on those unclassified subjects as soon as possible. I would like to provide a word about our staff. We have had an extraordinarily professional staff join us with the former General Counsel of the CIA, of the National Security Agency, of the National Security Council, the Deputy Inspector General of the CIA, the former Undersecretary of Defense, and a number of others that normally would not be available to serve us as staff on Capitol Hill. Their professional work, and I want to single out Rick Cincagrana, who is the staff director of our Joint Investigative Staff, is the reason that we were able to reach this unanimous conclusion. The Select Committee has found that the transfer of sensitive U.S. technology to the People's Republic of China goes beyond the Hughes and Loral instances that were a significant part of the reason that the committee was formed. These transfers are not limited to missile satellite technology, but cover militarily significant technologies. United States transfer of technology to the People's Republic of China has been the subject of serious and sustained PRC acquisition efforts over the last 2 decades and continues today. As I said, a significant reason for the creation of the Select Committee was to determine whether Space Systems Loral and Hughes were responsible for the transfer of technology that damaged the national security of the United States. Based on unclassified information, I can tell you today that we have found that national security harm did occur. We have investigated these questions more thoroughly than any other part of the United States government. The Select Committee's recommendations, along with its report, will be forwarded to the President of the United States as well as to relevant cabinet departments and agencies, and the Select Committee itself will brief both House and Senate committees at the earliest practicable date so that action can occur on our recommendations. I want next, and perhaps most importantly, to thank Norm Dix, who is standing at my side, who has been not just the ranking Democrat on this Select Committee, but effectively, along with Porter Goss, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, the co-chairman of this effort. The members on both the Republican and Democratic sides are very expert in these matters, and we have the Speaker of the House and the Minority Leader to thank for these outstanding appointments of senior leaders in the Congress. It's my pleasure now to yield to the ranking member of the Select Committee, Norm Dix of Washington.
Thank you, Chris. First, I want to congratulate the chairman and all of the members of the subcommittee, and I want to tell you that this was a very difficult assignment. I was asked by Dick Gephardt, the minority leader, to be on the ranking Democrat on this subcommittee, select committee, and I'm appreciative of the fact that I had John Spratt, Lucille Allard-Roybal, and Bobby Scott of Virginia, three Democrats that worked very hard. We had a very bipartisan group, Jim Hansen, Doug B. Ryder, Kurt Weldon, Porter Goss, and the chairman. And I have served with a lot of very good people in this Congress over the last 22 years, but Chris COX did a tremendous job as our chairman. He was willing to work with all the members. He put together a great staff that was put together on a bipartisan basis. We had a very fair look and a deep look at this very important national security issue. And I think the chairman said it quite well. Based on unclassified material, there was harm in some of the transfer of technology that occurred. It's also fair to say that this is not the only problem that we uncovered. And unfortunately, today, we're stuck with the problem of classification. And these documents that we have assembled, the material we've assembled, has to go through a process, as the chairman mentioned, of declassification. And we hope that when that is finished, that we'll be able to be more explicit about the problems that occurred. But I will say this, these are serious problems that must be addressed by the administration and the Congress. We're going to not only, we have a series of recommendations and findings that clearly detail these problems. We are going to work diligently as members of Congress with the administration and the Congress to make certain that the problems that we've found that will be corrected. And some of it's going to require legislation. Some of it's going to require actions on the part of the executive branch. And I have been told by the White House that they are very willing to consider and to implement the recommendations of the Select Committee, because they recognize that this is a bipartisan effort that has yielded a consensus product. And that isn't easy to do in the climate that we were operating in. But it's a testament to the chairman's leadership and the bipartisan spirit that we were able to get this done. And I, too, want to congratulate the staff. The staff did an outstanding job. We had a joint investigative staff. We had a majority and minority staff. And we only had one press secretary. The chairman wanted to have one press secretary. We agreed to that. And we appreciate his fairness. Again, he was very fair and was willing to work with everyone on the committee. We all had a chance to put in our recommendations and input, and I think this is a solid bipartisan product, and I'm proud to be associated with it.
Thank you. Let me add one final thing, if I might. I'm sure we'll run out of room here. You want to swap sides there?
Sure.
And that is the time pressure that all of us, have worked under. I think what the Select Committee has accomplished is absolutely extraordinary. What the staff has accomplished is extraordinary, independent of the fact that it was all done in a matter of months. But when one thinks back to 6 months ago, when there was no Select Committee, there was no staff, there were no offices, and no telephones, and realize that we have conducted over 22 investigative hearings. We have taken over 200 hours of testimony from over 75 different witnesses. We've conducted more than 700 hours of interviews and depositions of more than 150 individuals. We have issued 21 subpoenas conferring use immunity only with 4 of them with the concurrence of the Department of Justice, and completed all of our work, answered not only the questions put before us, but many more that we have found, unfortunately, are far more significant in that period of time. And I think we owe a great debt of gratitude both to the members and the staff of this Select Committee. And we'd be pleased now to take your questions, recognizing that we are constrained because of the classification of the report to address its substance.
When the story broke, there were a lot of allegations being thrown around, treason, betrayal, words like that. Do you see anything to support or refute those?
As we have said throughout the pendency of our investigation, we cannot comment on the substance of our findings with respect to any specific matter to the extent that the entire report is classified. And that goes for both the unclassified as well as the classified information in the report today. We're going to certainly be able to address questions that deal with unclassified information in short order, but the admixture of unclassified and classified information in that report right now, absent the opportunity even for a few hours to separate out which is which, means that when we answer your questions about even unclassified information, we run the risk of inadvertently disclosing classified information. So I won't try and characterize the substantive findings of the report.
Mr. Cox, can you tell us about some of the recommendations? Are you recommending that state take over some of the licensing functions over other technologies beyond satellites?
Well, that is unfortunately a perfect example of a question about an unclassified matter that I think we are rather rapidly going to be able to get back to you on. But we have agreed, the 9 of us just now, that because we have 38 separate recommendations and because the basis for some of them is classified information, that we've got to go through that process of sorting out which is which, even if the recommendations themselves are not classified. And so we will not comment on our 38 recommendations today.
How far back do these lapses in technology transfer go? Years back.
Without question, the PRC's technology acquisition efforts directed against the United States have been ongoing for more than 2 decades within the ambit that we carefully studied, and as the ranking member suggests, undoubtedly longer than that. But it's important to recognize also that that goes on even today. I'm sorry?
Again, can you repeat that?
Yes, the PRC's technology acquisition efforts directed against the United States based on the information that we looked at in the Select Committee have gone on for at least 2 decades and undoubtedly longer. And they continue to the present day.
Mr. Cox, is there any way you can...
Yes.
Are there going to be any criminal referrals to the Justice Department?
The Justice Department already has ongoing criminal investigations into the substance of the matters that we were looking at, including the classified matters that we can't discuss.
But are you going to make
Can you say anything
But-
at all about
but-
the behavior of the companies
Are you
involved?
making referrals on top of what the Justice Department is already doing?
We have worked very, very closely with the Justice Department throughout, and I think it's fair to say that the Justice Department knows more about its criminal investigations than we do. But in turn, the Justice Department also has been kept apprised of our information, and they have not shared with us their prosecutorial decisions. We don't know the answer to that question.
Can you say anything at all about the behavior of the private companies involved?
Not beyond what we have said just now for the purposes of this news conference today. We say a great deal about the behavior of the companies involved in our report, and that report we are going to try and get to you as early as possible.
Can you tell us what other technologies were involved that were beyond just satellites? Can you give us a sense of the other technologies?
Well, as I said at the outset, these include not only missiles and satellites, but also military technology. And beyond that, I cannot speak today because of the risk of inadvertently disclosing classified information.
Yes.
Dual use.
Dual use and military.
Mr. Chairman, can you quantify at all some of the areas in the Chinese military that were materially improved by these various technology transfers over the years? I'm thinking specifically of ICBM launch capability.
Yes, our report can address that question and does thoroughly. Today, We cannot comment on the substance of the report because the report in its entirety is classified. And let me point out the bind that this puts us in. The entire report is classified, and we are prevented, therefore, if we wish to obey the law, from discussing what's in it, even though there are substantial sections of this report that are already unclassified. We can decouple this rather rapidly, but as you understand, we have just now voted. And I will say that I was here along with most of the committee until the wee hours this morning. We've been working very, very late nights, and we have been devoting all of our time to completing our work. And the next step of our existence and our operations will be to making use of that product, because we recognize that we have spent the public's money, that this is a public matter, that it was public concern over this that led Congress by a nearly unanimous vote to create the Select Committee in the first instance, and we owe that report back. I am very anxious to declassify as much of this report as is possible so that we can make the full story available, both for purposes of acting on it here in Congress and satisfying the public's right to know.
Did you hear from the Chinese government during your hearing?
Can you say who you spoke to in the administration and expand upon what they promised to do about this report?
Well, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I'll tell you, it came from the White House and one of the president's top advisors on these matters.
Mr. Cox, is it limited to China? Are we talking about the harm of these people? Is it limited to information that China can obtain, or other countries have information that harm American national security? Our Select Committee is focused on United States technology transfer to the People's Republic of China, and that necessarily was our focus. The resolution that created the Select Committee clearly authorized and directed us to consider harm to the national security that might occur from proliferation, and without discussing any classified information, without discussing any information that was necessarily before our Select Committee, it's very easy for me to say that the PRC's record as a proliferator was very much a concern to us. So it is not just the harm that occurs in the first instance to the United States in the transfer of technology that we concerned ourselves with, but also the derivative harm from the proliferation of that information once it is transferred.
I'd like to make just a brief point on that. I think another thing we found out is that the PRC is getting a lot of information on technology from other countries, particularly Russia, and we looked at that very seriously as well.
And that point is one that I and all the members concur heartily with.
Is the critical look from the report look just to 92, or does it look back at a couple of decades? I wanted to clarify the point you made about a couple of decades back of U.S. policy.
Well, I will be as closely adherent as possible to what I said initially, and I'll repeat it to clarify it for you. The technology transfer that has occurred goes beyond the examples of the Loral and Hughes cases. It goes beyond, indeed, missiles and satellites, and includes military technology. And the technology acquisition efforts of the PRC have been targeted at the United States for a period of at least 2 decades, undoubtedly longer.
Have the policies of both of the Reagan, Bush, and Clinton administration all contributed to this release of technology?
Beyond what I just said, I cannot comment. The report addresses itself to that question, and I think you'll be...
If it goes back 2 decades, I think you can figure it out.
Well, I think it's important to recognize what the ranking member is not saying, because none of us is able to comment on what's in the report at this point, and that is the distinction between the PRC efforts targeted at the United States and U.S. policies in response to that.
Mr. Cox, is this likely to lead to a diminution of trade in these items with the PRC?
Well, I would hope, frankly, that we don't have any trade in military items with the PRC. That is not the aim of U.S. policy. To the contrary, we have a policy that is supposed to prevent that from happening at all. On the other hand, all of us agree that U.S. leadership in technology is also an important national priority, and our recommendations are consistent with that. Our recommendations appreciate and underscore the need for U.S. International competitiveness.
Mr. Cox, at this point, would you recommend that all license applications for products to be sold in China be frozen right now until your report is digested and the recommendations are circulated throughout the government?
Well, that in itself would be a recommendation, and we're not going to discuss our recommendations today.
One more question.
How successful was Chinese effort before this administration?
Beyond what I've said, I don't think I can comment explicitly on the successes or lack of them in individual instances running over a period of time with the PRC, but that is the substance of our report is very much directed to what has occurred during that time period.
Talk about a connection with the political campaigns, that was many focused on the contributions from China and linked to China.
Again, that goes to the substance of the report, and beyond what I've outlined, I can't talk about.
Thank you very much.
The findings.
Wait a minute.
The findings of the select committee are themselves included in the classified report, and so we are constrained for the moment from discussing them simply because these are serious members of Congress from the leadership of our national security, intelligence, and international relations and other committees. None of us wishes to come close to breaching the law when it comes to classified information. We will not do so. We have a perfect record of not having done so the last 6 months. It is only for that reason that we are not addressing these questions today. We are anxious to address these questions as rapidly as possible, and as I said, declassify even those things that are classified.
We think it's going to be...
When do you think the time will be of the unclassified stuff?
My hope is that this can be accomplished very rapidly in a matter of weeks.
Just have one last question.
Yes.
I just want to make clear, when you say technology transfers did occur, and you are applying that directly to Loral and Hughes?
What we have said about Loral and Hughes is that we have investigated those cases thoroughly, more thoroughly than any other part of the United States government, and addressed specifically the question of whether national security harm occurred, and that indeed it did.
On unclassified documents.
Based on, and we have to be careful to say that in this setting today, based on unclassified information. Indeed, our report includes other matters classified that we cannot speak of today.
Mr. Cox, how serious a problem is dual use? Mr. Cox, how serious a problem is the sale of dual use items?
Can we do it separately?
Yeah, I think there's a number of additional questions that are going to get us back to the same answer that we've been giving you. So I want to appreciate your willingness to bear with us on this for a short period of time, and I hope that we have provided you with a great deal of information about the process by which we reached this result and the result that we have reached. And we look forward now, although we have a great deal of work still to do, to finally getting a night's sleep and possibly even enjoying a Happy New Year. And we wish a Happy New Year also to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who gets the report now and when?
It goes to the administration for declassification.
On January 7th?
Yeah, it goes to the speaker and the minority leader.
And the declassified portions will be released almost immediately, and then the classified portions, is that how it works?
Well, they declassify it, and then we can release the declassified version.
And you expect that to take a couple of
That's going to take it's going to take probably a couple months. It'll be 6 or 7, 8 weeks.
Your comment on the 2 decades suggests that there's more than 2 administrations, one administration involved here.
Well, I mean, this goes back a considerable period of time.
There was a lot of, during the hearings, there was a lot of testimony about changing the satellite policy during the Clinton administration, even though Reagan and Bush also had approved satellite launches.
Yeah, but this policy was for a long period of time. So, I just don't want to go beyond what the chairman said.